Now and then, that's just amazing. I like this song. It's really great. It's a beautiful Beatles song, and just realize that this is the first song of the Beatles since almost 30 years. So that's just an event, a major event in the history of music. Now and then, the last Beatles song, I can't believe how good it is. It actually is really blowing my mind. I think it's really a well-written song, composed in the purely Beatles line, which they never lost actually, even though there are only two now. But these two have been able to make the Beatles make a new song, the four of them, which is amazing. Because how do you do to make people relive and replay together with you? In a way, although it's not really true, the Beatles have made this story in another way come true. That's really amazing, and it deserves some deeper thoughts. Okay, so now and then, just put it here. The last Beatles song came out 1 week ago. As you probably already know, this song stems from a poor quality recording on cassette by John Lennon in the late 70s. And thanks to a software system developed by Peter Jackson and his team, it has been possible to isolate John's voice from the piano and to use the now crystal clear voice for the song finally displaying four Beatles, the four Beatles. Some of George Harrison's contributions in the failed attempt to nail that song down in 1995 have been included. So, with Paul McCartney and Ringo Starr, who played their parts just this year, and John and George playing theirs years ago, this song is considered an original composition by John Lennon that now turns into the Beatles version by John, Paul, George and Ringo. Under the assumption that John and George would have liked that, which is highly possible, we now have what can be called the last Beatles song. A few days after its release, the song has reached first place on the Billboard of Digital Song Sale, and vinyl is almost sold out. Now and Then is once again a brilliant demonstration of the success of the Beatles. I think we need a sociological perspective to answer the recurring question, why are the Beatles so successful? The answer, because they are good, is not enough. A more subtle and convincing explanation is needed. It has been a while since I produced 2 videos about the Beatles, why the Beatles and because the Beatles, for which you can find the links in the description under my video here. In this present video, I will go deeper into explaining the success of the Beatles. The success of Now and Then, the last Beatles song, is especially telling of my hypothesis, which I can very shortly summarize in 2 words. Beatles blend. What do I mean? It will become crystal clear for you by the end of this video. While John's voice in Now and Then has become crystal clear thanks to artificial intelligence, my own explanation has yet nothing to do with artificial intelligence. It is just mine. Hey, that's just a little wink. So, let me start with my analysis. I think a common error is to start with songs in particular. And the Beatles offered many beautiful songs one would like to start with. Yet, we have to start not with particular songs, but with music in general, and try to understand the peculiar nature of music. Victor Hugo, the famous French writer, once wrote, "Music expresses that which cannot be said and on which it is impossible to be silent." This paradoxical nature of music is experienced each time one tries to say something about a particular piece of music. You just cannot find the words that would convey what it triggers in you. Yet, when you are deeply moved by a piece of music, you cannot just keep it inside. Your emotions surface by either some bodily reaction, like movements or tears, but also onomatopoeia. Ah, oh, wow. Expressions. Look at this. What a thrill. So good. And sometimes even discourses. It doesn't make sense to describe the music only. Speaking of music inevitably leads to speak of people. This is simply because music is a social phenomenon. Hence, speaking of music equates to speak about the social world in which it is embedded. The success of the Beatles tells something about the social nature of music. It tells us that any music that is too deeply embedded in a particular social world, an era, a social class, a specific culture, cannot be successful on the global level. The story of the Beatles is proof of this. They are so successful because they did quite the contrary. Instead of affirming a local identity, they have blended different social worlds, eras, social classes and cultures. The Beatles have transcended social distinctions, and this is why their songs are still so appealing. Being beyond peculiar social inscriptions, they address everyone in a direct and comforting way. All you need is love. And therefore they convey universal messages to which everyone can adhere. Now and Then recalls the friendship between four people, John, Paul, George and Ringo, and hence provides a universal template. We all want to belong to something bigger. I very much like this quote from the sociologist Melvin Pollner. To be a member is to remember. Through this play of words, member and remember, Pollner suggests that we are members when we remember. Yes, remembering can be read remember, reaffirming membership. Recalling common references is actually how we reenact and reaffirm the attachment, the bonding among us. This is quite obvious in the video of Now and Then. Reaffirming the friendship and hence also recalling its frailty is a way to underline the human condition. We are so inclined to love and yet so prone to destroy things and fight against each other because of different worldviews. In the end, it's up to us to choose between genius and mediocrity. Yes, we can choose to be great, because even the genius of Mozart or the genius of the Beatles is based on an ability we all have in common. Genius lies in love, as it is suggested by these two quotes. As all animals, we have 5 senses: touch, smell, hearing, sight, and taste. But what makes us the distinctive animal we call human lies in our capacity to symbolize things with artifacts, arts, words, writings. Only humans create movies, symphonies, or novels. Other animals don't do that. They don't have ideological fights. They don't have music neither. Therefore, music tells us something about the dramatic human condition, a species that is able to both compose beautiful art pieces and to provoke massive destructions. The artifacts, songs, music, plays, movies, books, and so on, created by humans, therefore reflect the symbolic worlds they build and recognize around them, and where their own intrigues take place. Common references are shared through these cultural artifacts. Some are universal, others are more local. Many wars stem from local artifacts and worldviews that are declared superior to other ones. Beatles blend. The Beatles have included diverse horizons in their music, and therefore it is transcending local differences. Yet their music is also grounded and has roots. The balance between roots and emancipation is difficult to find, but you have to find it. No one can live totally unrooted or unattached. Whether more universal or more local, artifacts play an essential role in the structuration of social life, because humans need artifacts to consider themselves as member of a community, as part of a group, because mutual recognition is necessary to get a sense of continuity, hence to understand a story. To be a member is to share a story. Beatles songs can be considered as successful stories, as many people may share them. Therefore, any Beatles song, and this is especially visible with Now and Then, does not simply exist in itself. It conveys a significant network of memory traces and a sense of belonging to a common history. This is very much evident with the Beatles community. Being considered a member of the Beatles community implies the mobilization of references through which members remember a story and relate to it again each time one of these references is mentioned. Many specialists of the Beatles community decipher and decode them, the images, the words, the lyrics, everything, hence providing to what extent they can be considered specialized members of the Beatles community. Congrats, guys! Most of you have made a fantastic job, and I mean it. But in my view, Now and Then goes beyond the Beatles community. It is a song and a movie that captures, probably to its climax, the sense of being members of the human community. It says something about human beings, their need of friendship and love. The entire work of the Beatles is an ode to love, just like Beethoven's Ninth Symphony was an ode to joy. The Beatles did this not only with their lyrics, but also and mainly with their music. As they grew older and their songs went more complex, especially in the studio years, they explored many musical directions and brought in many sounds from different origins. They blended them, and the songs that came out of this blending process were and are still uniting people. Now and Then, the last Beatles song, tells not only the fact that the four Beatles were friends and that the two remaining ones, Paul and Ringo, miss so much their friends who passed away, John in 1980 and George in 2001. In my view, this title also symbolizes the fact that the music of the Beatles has been and remains now and then the most powerful popular music of all times. Why has it been the most powerful popular music of all times? And why is it still so? It's because it is the one that blends the most a diversity of social horizons. Of course, it is foremost Western, but it includes a lot of other cultural traditions and worldviews. The Beatles made and still make the most beautiful blend of music. It is not so much the diversity of sounds that makes this music beautiful, but maybe more the universality of the feelings that people all over the world put in the sounds they make. Their quest for love, friendship, and peace. The artifacts created by the Beatles go beyond local references and worldviews. They blend them. They transcend the differences and help us see the unity that could be reached beyond our daily lives, misfortunes, and intrigues. So, it seems my assumption Beatles blend uncovers why the Beatles may be the acronym for the best ever achieved truly lifting electric sound. Yeah. The Beatles have achieved a truly lifting electric sound because, through their blending of different musical styles or genres, they captured the universal feelings that can't be felt in music. The Beatles probably played the major part in the orientation of popular music for more than 60 years now. Not because they were the most talented musicians, but because they were able to convey in musical ways the love that Victor Hugo probably confounded with music, on which, as he wrote, it is impossible to be silent. This is why it was impossible for me to remain silent after hearing and seeing Now and Then. And this is why I actually made this video, and I hope you like it. Please check my other videos, and if you have already done so, you may wonder where my friend Archie actually is. Well, it seems he's stuck on the B-side of this single, comprising Now and Then and Love Me Do. He's probably on a loop of Love Me Do now and then, love me do now and then, love me do now and then. Hey Archie, how do you feel? Thank you. Bye-bye.